Heading for the straight for the final time. It has been one comfortable time out there for the Mercedes, and reigning AOR F1 champion Tyrrell Schnitzel will take the checkered flag and the Azerbaijan Grand Prix victory. Heading for the straight for the final time. It has been one comfortable time out there for the Mercedes, and reigning.
Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely Stream Deck. For more information about the Stream Deck, the link is in the description below.
Hola amigos, and welcome along to the 5th round of Apex Online Racing Formula 1 season, and we are here near the city of Barcelona for the Spanish Grand Prix. After the previous 4 rounds, much of which has been dominated by the reigning and defending champion Tyrrell Schnitzel, we're live on the Iberian Peninsula for the start of a journey through some of F1's European heartlands. Last time we raced here was back in season 16, a race dominated by recent esports qualifier VGIA Lucas. So with his absence, it's a chance for someone else to dominate for a change here. We've been racing here since 1991. Well, who can forget Senna and Mansell side by side in 1991. But before we go to our qualifying session, let's take a quick look at this Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona. Very familiar for all the F1 teams, of course, of all the testing that goes on, which sometimes makes the racing suffer. But this 4.6 kilometer circuit features 16 corners, and in particular, the zone from turn 16 to turn 1 will feature the majority of the overtaking action, but don't forget, poor exits out of turn 3 and turn 9 could lead to more overtakes into turn 4 and 10. And of course, the exit out of the chicane, which isn't a very popular feature of this track, will have a clear bearing on overtakes as well. It's a 33 lap race here today, the first plus 30 lap race of the season, and will we get a bonus point for the fastest lap inside the top 10? We've not had it in the first 4 races so far, but it's an 18-minute qualifying session first of all. And well, like we've seen in some previous round, the soft tyre, not particularly a good tyre to be on for the start of the race unless it's a wet race, so expect to see heavy use of the mediums and the hard compounds during qualifying if it is a dry race. And now let's have a quick look at the championship standings going into the 5th round of the season today. Tyrrell Snitz, as I mentioned, winning 3 of the 4 races so far season, establishing a 25-point advantage to Michael, the season 16 champion. Truesdale closing in the gap, Bara consolidating his 4th position. Campbell was a superb podium last week, up to 5th above Frosty. Ollie D continues his steady rise up the top 10 ahead of Roy and Widget. And Hugh Gold's excellent first points, a 4th last week at Baku, puts him into the top 10 of the championship standings. And in terms of the constructors, well, the gap remains the same between Williams and Mercedes, 28 points in total, but they're absolutely meteoric rise ahead of the other teams continues, with Toro Rosso and Alfa Romeo well behind 3rd and 4th. McLaren, Renault, Red Bull, Racing Point having a fierce contest for 5th place, with Haas in 9th. And well, Ferrari 3 points in the opening 4 races, no surprises, who will be desperate to get some decent points here by the end of these 33 laps here at Circuit Catalunya. We've had a slight delay on the lobby here today, so we're just waiting for qualifying to begin. But introducing alongside me, Mark Alimonda, as usual, my commentary partner, Andy Campbell. Well, you've had enough tapas and tequila to last a lifetime, but welcome once again to the commentary box, my friend.
Yes, hello, hola everybody. I have finally arrived. Unfortunately, all that tequila and everything else made me go for a quick siesta before the race. I finally made my way up to the commentary box for what should be a very exciting race here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. As you say, 4.6 kilometres, 2.8 miles, 16 turns. We've got a full grid, 20 drivers here tonight. Qualifying is now underway. We'll start seeing some cars out on the track very shortly. And you see, you know, this track's been on the calendar ever since 1991, but the history of the Spanish Grand Prix actually goes all the way back to 1913, and that first ever Spanish Grand Prix was held under touring car rules. But the Spanish Grand Prix has also been held at Pedrabalis, I think is how you say that first one, and I'm absolutely terrible, Jarama, Montjuic and Jerez as well. So there's plenty of tracks here, but this has been the home for a many number of years, and it's one that the drivers, the teams know very, very well from testing. And it's a very interesting track as well. You've got the long front straight, you've got the tyre punish in turn 3, you've got the quick turns towards the end of sector 2 onto the back straight, and then you've got the twisty fiddly section towards the end as well. So it's a really tricky one to set the cars up with, and it'll be interesting to see who comes out here on top this evening.
Yes, this course of track I have visited for real F1 races on 2 occasions in 2017 and this year. The general admission areas in particular, which I've used both times, very good for watching racing action. So if you ever head to Spain, I'd recommend getting the general admission ticket, because you will certainly get some excellent views of the racing action as it goes on. As we watch Alvaro Aznar, the reserve driver, appearing again for his, I believe, 3rd appearance of the season as a reserve driver. 2-point scores so far. But Andy, in terms of the championship so far, only one driver really to speak of in terms of the title, and that is the reigning champion Schnitzel, who continues his seemingly imperialist title defense so far. Yeah. 3 wins from the opening 4 races, and in particular, although it was a close run thing in the first 3 races, it was a particularly dominant victory at Baku last week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 3 wins from 4. If I remember correctly, he was second when he didn't win either, which was in China when Michael took that. It's been mainly those two guys up front. Michael, unfortunately, having a bit of a torrid time in Baku last week, qualified down in 14th, managed to recover well to end up 5th, but that wasn't without its dramas and its trips through the wars as well, wing changes, etc. So it's given Schnitzel a bit of an advantage. He's now a full race victory ahead of his nearest rival, and if you can consolidate that over the next couple of races here tonight and next week when we head to Monte Carlo on the shores in Monaco, just before we have a quick week off, then that's really going to put him into a good position as we head into the main part of the season. But it's a tricky track round here, and everybody will be looking for the best result. But you know, it's hard to look beyond the top 2 in the championship as being the ones to look out for here. The likes of Truesdale, we know, is very quick as well. We've seen some good pace down the field from some other drivers too, so don't count anybody out yet, but the top 2 in the championship will surely start here tonight as the clear favourites.
Right, so we're going to go on board for Hugh Golf for Racing Point as we go for a hot lap of the circuit to Catalunya-Barcelona.
Yeah, so real quickly, down to first turn 1 already. You're just looking past the 100-metre point for your braking zone into turn number 2. Little tank slapper on the way out through turn 3. This one punishes the tyres. You just got to wait before you can get on the power just a little bit in the middle of the corner up towards turn number 4, using all the track on the left, down to 3rd gear briefly, 4th gear, 100 miles an hour on the way through. Just bring it to the left, back to the right. Tricky downhill braking here for turn number 5. You've got to be very careful on the power. Use the curbing on the exit. Curve for turn 6, not really a corner, and a tricky uphill corner here, cambered on both sides, 7 and 8, and you want to get a good run through here at the Campsa corner, turn 9, 150 miles an hour. You got DRS down the back straight here. It's a shorter back straight than the front, but it's a tricky and very hard braking zone into turn number 10, Lacaxia. Briefly down to 1st gear, up to 2nd, clip the curb on the left for 11, down to 3rd gear to bring the car back to the right hand side for 12. You're up towards turn 13. We're now into that twisty section through 13 and then through the final chicane at turn 14 and 15. You want to get a good run out of there, use all the curb the game will let you through the final corner of 16, running it a bit wide, DRS wide open, across the line goes Hugo, and it's a 1:18.7. It's 3rd place at the moment as Danny puts himself into provisional pole after the first melee of laps.
Now, thanks very much once again for your exemplary hot lap, which always gives us a fun ride around the circuit. To introduce it for those of you not that familiar with the circuit, although that seems to be very unlikely if any of the people watching or even casual F1 fans. So much testing done here in pre-season every single year, and that in a way does make the real racing suffer on occasion. But Hugh Golf with a decent time there. Not representative times for the super soft runners so far. Casper 1:18.6, for example. Just getting a feel for the circuit at the moment. But it is Danny MG, actually, another of the reserve drivers, currently up there on a 1:18.560. But these times are going to be tumbling later on in the session. We expect somewhere in the 1:17s for pole position when they switch to the mediums later on. No indications yet, Andy, of the weather forecasts?
No, actually, I have. I've just had a little word in my ear that we're expecting no rain in Spain here tonight because it stayed away into the plains in the middle of the country. So dry race, dry qualifying. No need to worry about those intermediate or wet tyres here this evening. And that means that the drivers will need to think about their strategy through this qualifying session as well. We are seeing a lot of them out there at the moment on the hard compound tyres. A few of them doing a quick sort of tester lap almost on the softs just to get a grip of things. But expect pole position and most people to set their fastest lap on the medium compound tyre. You'll find that is likely to be the best strategy, is medium to hard or the opposite way around, hard to medium one stop. Tyre life here, the softs will only do around about 5 to 8 laps roughly. You'll get about 11 to 16 out in the mediums, and you'll get anything from 20 to 25 out of the hard compound tyres. But if you're running the soft to the hard, you're going to be running off a cliff towards the end of the tyre life. So it's always better to go with the medium into the hard compound tyres, having spoke to the drivers.
Yes, no one fitting the medium tyre just yet. The medium tyre is around 0.6 of a second faster than the hard tyre. So if some of these drivers are getting low 18s, and expect them to be in the mid 17s at least when they switch to the mediums later on. But some may be capable of going even a second faster on those particular tyres. But you know, a full dry race makes the strategy very, very simple. As Andy mentioned, it's very much a one-stop race here, as are most of the tracks on the the F1 Canada on this particular F1 2019 game. And Danny MG in second place at the moment, just seeing if there's anyone else out there on a lap and angle. I think Speed Bara may well be. Just going through sector 1 at the moment. Skips the curbs just a little bit. Nice ride. A solid start to the season with Speed Bara so far. The top 4, the only drivers in the championship table who have scored points at every single round, Speed Bara being one of them. A superb podium, of course, at China. Followed up with some, frankly, frantic midfield action last week at Baku, which, Andy, was the best midfield action we saw of the season so far, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. The midfield battle at Baku last week was unbelievable. Just so much going on. The slipstream and the DRS effect down the main straight towards turn 1 was just keeping them so close together. And it was absolutely brilliant. But you mentioned Speed Barry there. He's had a really, really good start to the season, showing some brilliant, consistent speed as well. And with that third place, obviously, his debut podium in the top tier here on AOR F1 at China. Just, the cherry on top at the moment. And remember, he's saying that he's going to get better as the tracks come along, because the first 5 rounds aren't exactly his favourite sort of tracks at the moment. So he's going to get quicker as the season goes on. Hopefully we'll maybe see him up there later on. Just a quick bit as well that I need to point out for anyone watching. You may remember last week we've seen an incident midway through the race in the midfield where Alex, who was in the Mercedes, got hit into the wall, which was by Blizzard in the Renault. Well, Blizzard has picked up 10 penalty points for that. He wasn't given any time penalty because he did retire from the race, so he now has 10 penalty points on his licence, and that could later on in the season, if he's involved in anything else, come back to bite him. We could end up with a qualifying ban at a later point in the year. And another bit, when you mentioned Blizzard, qualifying, I was doing a wee bit of comparisons from the first 4 races. In qualifying, Blizzard is 2-2 with his teammate Ollie D, but when it comes to the races, Ollie D has beat him every single round so far. It's 4-0 to Ollie D in races, but yet it's tied on qualifying. So Blizzard, as we've seen, showing some good single lap pace. He's got some really good pace in the car. Just can't string the results together at the moment. And his teammate is basically carrying it along at a much better consistency just now. And there's a few others like that as well, but I'll come to them a bit later on.
Yeah, so we're just on board with Jim Nardi Perez as he flies through turn 9. A very satisfying corner when you get it right. Also a very important corner. This is the second of the 2 DRS zones here at this particular track. Speaking of Ollie D, you mentioned his comparison with Blizzard. Ollie D had a very difficult start to the season, a dreadful race to open the season in Australia, 17th, and then followed that up with 10th, 5th and 6th to kind of recover his season. He's slowly creeping his way up the top 10. He gained 2 positions in the championship standings last week to move up to 7th, and he'll be looking for more of that as he tries to close the gap to Stay Frosty. Now, it looks like to me that Stay Frosty is not actually here this evening, so that may give him a chance to actually go up to 6th.
He is.
As,
he is. He's in 4th.
Oh, sorry. I forgot he changed his PSN. There's too many names in front of the screen. That's true. Schnitzel lowers the benchmark to 118, 152, and those are on used hards, don't forget. So, he will not want to start on those used hards because that will severely compromise him. But unlike most tracks, in terms of corner cutting, Andy, there's only really one part of the track where you can really risk a penalty, and that is, of course, the final chicane, because it's easy to trip up there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're trying to use as much of the curb as you possibly can through the chicane so you can get as best a run as possible down that front straight, as we say. That's going to be the DRS zone. Is going to be where we see quite a lot of action there down towards turn 1, but it's such a long DRS zone as well that quite a lot of moves will probably be done before they reach turn 1. I would be interested to see turn 10 with some late braking moves, maybe if someone gets a good run out of turn 9 down that back straight. But yeah, that's more likely going to be where we see corner cuts. We might see 1 or 2 at some other parts of the track, but that is the most obvious one that we're going to see tonight, will be that final chicane.
Well, we've only got 3 drivers who have yet to set a time so far. In terms of the gap between the top and the bottom, it is, apart RC Alonso, obviously not representing the time, so it's a second between the top 16 at the moment. A typically tight session in the top tier of AOR on PS4. As we see VSR Wayne heading down through turn 10, very tight apex there for that particular hairpin. Now, unlike F1 2018, some of the curbs here very, very nasty if you put a bit too much wheel on it, especially in the opening set of corners and the turns 11 and 12 just after the hairpin. If you take a bit too much speed there, or any ran over the curbs a little bit. May have got an invalidation there. We'll just find out as VSR Wayne crosses the line. What's it going to be for him? It's P10. He had an impressive qualifying session last week, but they all went terribly wrong for him early on in the race, damaging his wing, compromising his race from the start, and eventually he would retire from the race. Although his teammate, LR2, did pick up his first point of the season, getting P10, but it's only 3 points for the two Ferrari drivers so far this season. Now, there's a bit of activity going on in the pit lane. The soft tyres are beginning to be, the medium tyres, I'd say, it's starting to be fitted on the drivers. But Andy, just a brief word on Ferrari. What do you think is the reason that they've just struggled so far this season collectively? Only 3 points between them from the opening 4 races. And we don't want to harp on about it too much because obviously they'll be wanting to do the best job they can.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't want to go on too much. I'm sure that the team bosses will certainly not like us doing that one. At the moment, we know, we've seen Wayne have some really good pace in Bahrain, for example. He just got bottled up behind some of the guys in front of him, just couldn't find a way past. He was frustrated for the most of that second stint. R2 has been quite unlucky as well, getting caught up in a few incidents. And that's where mainly the problem has been for the two Scarlet Red Ferraris, is that they've been in that midfield pack through qualifying. They've not been further up the grid. They've been in the midfield or towards the sort of back end of the grid a wee bit more. And that means obviously more likelihood of tripping over someone, maybe just getting pushed a little bit wide, maybe just catching the wall or having a spin. And that just completely compromises your race, especially if it happens in those first couple of laps when the field is so close together. And if they can, stop that kind of thing from happening and get themselves up the grid a wee bit more, then there's every possibility that they can start picking up some points, because they're going to need to do it very soon. They've got 3 points, as you say. The next nearest team is Haas on 12, so there's a 9-point gap already between them and the next team. And it's not really where we expect to see Ferrari. When you think of Ferrari, you think in a way of F1, top of the grid and winning races. So they'll be wanting to get up there as quick as possible.
Yes, I mean, obviously today was an outstanding day in real life for Ferrari with Leclerc's victory at Monza, so maybe they can take a bit of inspiration from that emotional victory. Now, something just caught my eye here. Lee Finley setting a 118 flat on the soft tyre. Now, I'm pretty sure that won't be a representative time in terms of what will be pole position by the end of the session. Lots of the drivers now fitting the medium compound as we suspected. Lee Finley should have plenty of time to get back to the pits and fit on new tyres, although you have to get on with it in terms of the outlap, so you may be cutting it a little bit fine, so he's not going to be able to go too slow on the outlap. Tyrrell Snitzel then, the championship leader, out on track on the medium compound, and his closest rivals, Truesdale and Michael, also out there on that particular tyre. So let's have a look at Michael. Is he starting a lap yet? Because it looks like he may well be. Yes, he is. So Michael starting a lap on the medium. So we're going to keep an eye on him first, because I do believe that Truesdale and Schnitzel are behind him on track. And these are the 3 drivers who may well be the main protagonists for the pole position here today. So into turn 4, a great viewing spot. I usually park myself there when I go to this particular circuit. I won't mention it 2 times, but it was a good time anyway. But into turn 5, very slow apex here. Important to get good traction out of this particular corner. And then completely blind up to the top of the hill here as you go into turn 9. You have to kind of trust your setup and your driving ability here, especially if you're using cockpit view. Then heading down towards the end of sector 2. So according to this, he is, well, so far he's needed 9/10 of a second up on his hard times. That gives you an idea of the difference in speed that these mediums have compared to the hard compound. Now, in terms of the strategy, they'll have to get used to the mediums and try and eke out as much laps as they can and then go on the hards. That's going to be the main strategy in the dry race. Through the final chicane then, looks a fairly solid, oh, he tripped up over that a little bit, went a bit deep across that. Didn't get the ideal line, but here comes Jim Michael heading for the line, and it's going to be a 1:17.435. So let's see how Schnitzel responds. Schnitzel still on his lap at the moment. What about his teammate? Truesdale, trying to find him. He's actually ahead on track of Schnitzel. So can Truesdale respond to that? So at the moment, 1:17.435. Lee Finley out on track as well. He's in P2, 5/10 behind, but that is, of course, to briefly put the best in it. So only one representative medium time so far. But Truesdale's going to add to that. Heading down towards turns 14, 15, and then on to 16, the final corner. Fully flat here, trying to keep as a narrow line as possible to get the best possible traction out of the corner. Heading for the line then. Truesdale will go into P1, a 1:17.347. Can Schnitzel respond to the Williams challenge? Let's find out. Schnitzel
No,
heading through.
he's backed out.
Oh, he's backed out. Oh, wow. Now this. Has he invalidated somewhere? Or is he should have time for another run, though, but he must have made a mistake somewhere on his run. Lee Finley is on an out lap as well. He does have time to do another lap, but that will be interesting, though, because that will give him less time and less tyre wear later on in terms of his first stint. So let's see who else is out there. What about Speedbarry? Speedbarry and one of the racing points. Hopefully we don't get a situation like Monza qualifying where everyone runs out of time. I doubt it because they're not as silly as the real F1 drivers, I don't suspect. So at the moment, so Williams 1-2. Lee Finley out there. He had some good pace we saw last season. If he turns up to some more races, I think we will see more of his quality. Schnitzel just behind him. So I think we'll keep an eye on Lee Finley. As Danny MG moves up to P2. And Alvaro Aznar in the Mercedes has actually split the two Williams. So brilliant work from him. But we'll keep an eye on it. And Jim Roy, former championship runner-up from season 16, moves up to P5. Lee Finley in P7. We're going to keep an eye on him. And Schnitzel and Speedbarry just behind. And also the two Renaults are on their final flying laps. Michael's qualifying session is complete. And he will start no better than P3. But he'll be hoping that Schnitzel makes another hash of his lap. So he can at least try and take the fight to his championship rival, because at the moment Michael may slip down a few more places, just as we saw last week. So Schnitzel heading for the line then. P6 for Nicholas Matteo. P8 for Stay Frosty. Ollie D has retired from the session. I don't know if he's lost control of the car in Sector 2. Lee Finley up ahead. He will cross the line just before, but what can the reigning champion do? He's got an excellent helicopter view. Heading through the final corner then, turn 16 for the line. And Tyrrell Schnitzel will be only P5, nearly 2/10 off. So at the moment, it looks like it's going to be a Williams and Mercedes on the front row, but one of those Mercedes is not going to be the reign champion Tyrrell Schnitzel. Is there anyone else out there? Jim Roy, I think he's on a in-lap. What about Casper?
Yeah.
I think Casper is going to be another one. Casper heading through the final sector. We've seen some good qualifying sessions from Casper in the past. Can he deny Truesdale the pole position here today? Heading for the line then. Casper, P17 at the moment. Where's he going to end up? It is P8. So the Alfa Romeo driver gets into the top 10. And
that's it.
I do believe at the end of the session, Truesdale's already back in the pits. And the
other cars on track, Alvaro, Danny, and that, they're all just running slowly. So that is your lineup. And Williams on pole position, but your championship leader down in 6th position there. That's going to spice this race up.
Yes, now that is a very interesting situation. Michael ahead of Schnitzel. So that, I think that is what we needed for the championship in some way. No offense to Schnitzel, of course. He would have wanted to have been on the front row at the very least. But, you know, this is what we get. Hopefully a bit of a mixed up grid here. And that could be very good indeed for the entertainment value as we wait for the final drivers to get back to the pits or retire their cars. But look at that, less than 1/10 of a second covering the top 3, less than half a second covering the top 14. Now that may well be collectively the tightest qualifying session we've had so far, Andy.
I believe it is, certainly covering down to the top 17 anyway, for sure. That's incredible times for everybody to be that close together. It's nearly the entire field, only 3 drivers slower than that. But Truesdale getting that car on the pole position, there are your qualifying times. So Truesdale on pole, 17.3. We were predicting a 17.4, so we weren't far away. So Truesdale on pole. Alvaro Aznar reserving the Mercedes with 17.4 in second. Michael in third. Speedbarry again up there in the Toro Rosso in fourth. Daniel Alves into fifth in the McLaren. Schnitzel only in sixth in the Mercedes. Danny reserving the Haas in seventh. Then Casper, Wayne and Lee Finley rounding out the top 10. All medium tyres. Then it's Roy, Blizzard, Nicholas Matteo, Tactician, Ollie D, Stay Frosty, R2, Nardi Perez, Alonso and Hugh at the bottom of the field. But notice in there that Hugh set his best time in the hard tyres, so obviously got caught up on the mediums and not able to set a better lap time, so that's put him to the back of the field. I think a lot of them are obviously thinking the long game here, run as long as possible. We've seen quite a few drivers, if they can stay out of trouble in the early stages, getting themselves some decent results. Think of Hugh last week in Baku, 4th position he finished in, and he ran long in that first stint, pitted at the right time, helped by all the battles in the midfield, costing others time, and he took a lovely 4th. So others will be thinking that way. Blizzard deciding to go with a medium tyre, so he's going to have a bit more grip than those around him in the opening lap or two, especially off the line. It's a long run down to turn 1. I mean, you're mentioning there obviously Repulsor, Truesdale, couple of podiums already. Remember, we know already how good he is at defending. Just go back to race 1 in Melbourne. He defended from 3 guys behind him for pretty much the entirety of the second stint with no DRS, used his battery well. So if he can get into turn 1 still in the lead, he's going to be a hard man to pass. It's going to be like trying to get by a London bus with that Williams, I'd say. They're coming at the line now for the start of round 5 of the Apex Online Hype Energy League's F1 tier. This is going to be one heck of a race.
Yes, there's an intriguing grid from that qualifying session. It is a very long straight here, but actually the amount of meters, it's less than 600 meters from the start finish line all the way down to turn 1. Quite a concertina effect here, so they're going to have to be careful under the braking. Let's watch this grid form up then. Truesdale on board with him. The tension rises from the near capacity crowd here. Nearly 140,000 fans here packing this arena. Here we go then, 5 red lights here at Circuit Catalunya, and round 5, lights out, and away we go. It's a decent start from Truesdale, but an even better one to a degree from Alvaro to find, and he's tucked in behind the Williams driver. He's going to try and go round the outside at turn 1. Can Alvaro take the lead? No, he's been squeezed out, and I think Michael may get a chance for P2. Any contact behind? No, everyone getting through safe. Oh, one of the Torossos out off the circuit into the gravel trap, and yes, Michael has taken P2, and now the Mercedes. But look at that, Schnitzel up to P2, P4 already. So it is a battle is on between Williams and Mercedes in this early stage, with Alves maintaining his 5th place, Danny MG in 6th, and Lee Finley in the and Speed Bara in the Toro Rossos in 7th and 8th. There's a lot of movement going on behind. We'll check that out. And behind is actually a battle going on between Danny MG and Speed Bara. And Speed Bara has actually been demoted to P7. So any movement going on between Michael and Truesdale at the moment. And you feel, Andy, that Schnitzel will want to get past the Mercedes of Alvaro Aznar as quickly as he can.
Yeah, you got to wonder if team orders might come into effect for those guys there, because remember Alvaro Anza, he's going to be wanting to look after himself though. He wants a full-time grid position in this tier. He's still only a reserve at the moment, but Schnitzel's the championship leader. Mercedes are going to be thinking of it that way. Down the field, the Toro Rosso that ran wide out of turn 2 was Speed Barry. Managed to get back in the track. They were 3 wide at one point for a few of them through turn 1, and then Tactician in the Alpha into turn 4. That's what one of the yellow flags was. He got pushed wide onto the grass momentarily and got absolutely mugged by a number of drivers, so that's dropped him down a number of places, down to 14th, because he had gained a few in those earlier stages. But everybody looks like they've kept everything clean. There doesn't seem to be any damage. I've not seen any flying bits of carbon fibre, so we've got through that first round cleanly. However, I did just notice there, Jim Roy has dropped 9 places on the first lap there, so he's obviously had an issue that I've not caught either, off screen, and he's now at the back of the field. That's not where the Red Bull driver will want to be.
Yeah, not a good start for Jim Roy, who was the runner-up in season 16. Hasn't been on the podium since the 9th round of last season. It's a short 10-round season. But notably, Daniel Alves has made an outstanding start, and he's keeping up with the high-quality opposition he has up ahead of him. Just keeping Tyrrell Schnitzel honest. He's actually beginning to build a gap to Lee Finley in 6th, so top 5 may well leave behind in the short term if this kind of pace continues, as Truesdale tries to build a gap from his teammates. So it's a very intriguing situation. Michael is in P2 at the moment, Truesdale's in P3 in the championship. They are not going to be under any sort of team orders, but Schnitzel is his teammate, so to speak, for tonight is a reserve. So Schnitzel, though, may have to wait for a gap to develop between Michael and Aznar before he has a chance, because they're going to be following each other in their slipstream and have the DRS activated, which race control indeed does. Fast lap of the race at 1:21. We will be going much faster than that once they switch to fresher rubber later on in the race. But Truesdale looking absolutely mighty so far. 0.8 of a second now over Truesdale, and there's no DRS until after P9, so this next sector may be very key to Truesdale race. If he can break the 1 second now, he may run off into the distance. So let's have a quick look at the winners and losers so far for this particular race. In terms of positions gained, well, Lee Finley's gained 4 from P10, so an excellent start for him. T.R. Snitzel gained 2 after a great start. And then further downfield, as Andy mentioned, Tim Roy losing 9 places at the start. So that's an awful start for him. 3 places gained for Blizzard and Nicholas Matteo, putting them into the top 10 for this race, as we see the DRS opening for the first time for a lot of the cars. Very close field so far here. It is only 12 seconds between the entire field, so that's a very tight field. But that does mean if anyone pits with gaps like this, then well, they're going to have plenty of fresh air to deal with. So Michael then, trying to put his teammate under pressure, maybe get a run on him. Traction out of the final corner, very important. But at the moment so far, if anything, looks like Tyrell Snitzel a little bit closer. Let's go on board Tyrell Snitzel. Can he get past Alvaro Aznar to get onto P3? Because those Williams have started to edge slightly away from Aznar. Michael actually closed very much under the DRS to Truesdale. Just over 0.3 of a second now between the top 2. Lap 4 here. And your running order at the moment: Truesdale, Michael, Alvaro Aznar, Schnitzel, Daniel Alves, Lee Finney, Danny MG, Speedbari, Blizzard, and Casper, who overtook Nicholas Matteo to get back onto. Oh, and Schnitzel running slightly wide out of the exit of turn 4, but so he would have got a bit of dirt on the left side tyres, but he should survive that with no issue. Now Alvaro Aznar is being a bit of a buffer, running in the dirty air. Schnitzel it is, Alvaro Aznar, it's Mercedes at the moment. That's not going to be ideal for him. But look how tight this field is, and Daniel Alves is still right there at the top 5. If Schnitzel makes any mistake out the final chicane, Alves will be absolutely going for that particular move. And Roy is beginning to close the gap back up to the back of the field, so he may have an opportunity to do some overtakes, but his race has been heavily compromised by whatever happened in turn 1. We didn't see it, he must have had some contact somewhere. Now Michael's a little bit closer to his teammates. We ride on more of the front wing of the Williams. Now can he put his teammate under pressure? And right behind him, I'll tell you what, Schnitzel looks ever closer to his teammate, and I think we may see dual moves for the lead here. Yep, here we go. Michael will swoop past Truesdale into the lead of this race. And what about Schnitzel? Schnitzel was not able to get past. So a change of the lead, Andy, at this early stage. Now this will be a very important lap for Michael. If Michael can break the DRS, then I'm surprised that Truesdale didn't put up a bit more defence there.
Yeah, and maybe he realised without the DRS he just wanted to fight another day, let his teammate go by. There's no point fighting with your own teammate. That's the worst thing you can do. You take both of them out, that just ruins your race. Schnitzel unable to get by Anzar there, and he did just a wee bit of a duck to the right hand side and then instantly back to the racing line. But you know, there was still the cars with space between them, so it was just within the rules, but it was quite a late move to one side and then back to the other. And you can see Schnitzel now is looking all over the back of his teammate into turn 10, but no dice down there. Been plenty going on through the field as well. They're all so close together at the moment, but no one's able to really make a major move just now. The last one was Casper a couple of laps ago, getting by on Nicholas Matteo. Wayne tried to follow him through and actually cost him a position to Frosty for 12th, so I put Wayne down to 13th when he thought he was actually going to gain 11th. So you just got to be so careful around here to make sure you pick your moves at the right time so you don't lose out to anyone else. And Blizzard's the first one to have picked up any time penalties in the race, as Speedbari sets the fastest lap of the race right onto the back of Danny MG in the Haas into turn 1. But still, it's just too much of a DRS train at the moment, although Casper has proven that otherwise, because Blizzard's not got DRS, and the young Dutchman has just flew by the Renault there and up into 9th place. Now, how long will it take him to close that 3 seconds to gain up to the top 8?
Well, I have to say, Alvaro Aznar, he's got enough pace to keep up with the 2 Williams drivers, and until he drops out of that DRS zone off the car in front of him, Schnitzel's going to have a real job on his hands getting past this particular car. I mean, the setup for this particular track is very much a mixture. You want enough downforce to deal with some of these high-speed corners, but you also need lower downforce so you're not sitting duck on the main straights. And I think Michael has clearly got a bit more straight line speed than Truesdale. I think that's why he overtook. Oh, and a snap of oversteer from Aznar, and that may drop him out of DRS right there. Schnitzel's trying to squeeze past him. Oh, and he nearly loses the car there. There was slight contact between the two. Asnar is just within DRS still. We're nowhere near the pit window for the mediums, so they're not going to be going off just yet. But yeah, Asnar's had a really poor lap, and I think this is going to be the opportunity for the reigning champion to get back up into the top 3 and then take the fight to these two Williams in what could be an epic battle between the top 3 in the championship. Can Schnitzel get ahead of him? It's as close as he's been. He's going to go for it. A late lunge and contact! Contact between the two cars. Has he got any damage? And look at this. Daniel Alves is going to squeeze down the inside of Schnitzel, going into 2 and then turn 3. Schnitzel's going to try and come back at the McLaren, but he's not going to be able to get past him. Alves with an opportunistic move. We saw some of those opportunistic moves last week at Baku before his retirement, unfortunately, on the last lap, and that was sneaky. But, well, could Alvaro Asnar giving Schnitzel a bit more space, or was the move not really on, Andy?
I would hard to tell from the angle I had. Unfortunately, I was trying to fly through the rest of the field while you guys were doing that. But yeah, Schnitzel will not be happy. His teammate over that one, no matter which way you look at it. And losing out to Daniel Alves means he's now got another car he needs to get back through as well. I've been keeping an eye through the midfield. There's a bit of a blizzard train going on at the moment. 10th down to 17th basically are all in a line. Keep an eye out for Casper though, because he's pulled away from blizzard by about 2.5 seconds in a lap and a half, and he's closing up to the back of the top 8 at about half a second a lap, gaining on them. So he's got some good pace in that Alfa Romeo. He might still be on for some good points. Blizzard though has got pretty much the rest of the field all over the back of him, and he looks like he's a bit of a sitting duck at the moment. Nicholas Matteo is the first one lining that up as Schnitzel gets by on Daniel Alves well before they get to turn 1 as well. So easy move there for the championship leader. Blizzard's gone defensive on Nicholas Matteo. Can the Haas go round the outside this time? That's nice clean racing from the two of them. A little bump on the exit. Blizzard's going to stick in there, bumping wheels through turn 3. Look out for the McLaren there, a Frosty in the background. He's going to come through and take over. It's all carnage going on through down the middle of the field there, and Blizzard's lost out in a number of places. A little bit of desync there as Wayne gets by on him as well, but yeah, pushing along. Nicholas Matteo's lost out badly in that one also.
Yeah, I think we'll move away from VSL Wayne because he's got some really bad desyncing, which looks absolutely bizarre. So, but yeah, positions gained for the likes of, say, Frosty, Wayne and Casper just then. Let's go back to the front because Truesdale has kind of bit his time the last few laps, but now he's within half a second of his teammate again. And Alvaro Asnar still keeping within DRS range, so once again Schnitzel's got the conundrum of trying to get past this reserve Mercedes driver. He's not his official teammate in this particular division this season. But Truesdale, can he now close the gap to Michael? This looks about as close as he's been in recent times. Fastest lap of the race goes to Tyrrell Schnitzel into the 1 minute 20s for the first time. Can Truesdale go for a late lunge to the inside? No, he chooses not to. Let's get the telemetry on. I think he had that in mode 0 when I had a look at the steering wheel. And there is now gaps beginning to form. The top 8 are leaving the rest of the field behind. Stay Frosty, VSL Wayne having a bit of a fierce scrap down there. Wish we could have a look at it, but I dare not get away from the battle for the top 4. Make that top 5.
Also that battle between those two is not PG.
Yes, well, exactly. If that car's still desyncing, that's not really what I want to see. But Tyrrell Schnitzel very predictably has destroyed the small gap to Alvaro Asnar, and I think Schnitzel was only a matter of time before he gets by. He was really squeezed at turn 1. I think Alvaro Asnar was entitled. Oh, he's gone for a lunge at turn 10 for the hairpin. He's going to get Asnar off, and I think he's showing what he thought of that incident earlier, a few laps earlier, and that puts Tyrrell Schnitzel back into the top 3. So he's gained 3 positions from the start of the race. So he'll be. Not sure if Asnar would have appreciated that, but there you go. Can Asnar come back at him? Or is he going to be more vulnerable to Daniel Alves? I think he actually may be more vulnerable to Alves. So now Tyrrell Schnitzel into P3. He's now going to have to try and chase after the 2 Williams. And this is where the race will get very interesting. You know, for the time being, Alves is going to have to settle. And look how close Truesdale is as they go through the opening corners. Oh, a bit of a twitch of oversteer by Michael there as they go through turn 2. Truesdale trying to chase down his teammate. And we are approaching the pit window for these medium runners. Somewhere between lap 11 to lap 16 is when we're expecting these medium runners to be coming in. A long way to go. We've only had 10 laps of this Spanish Grand Prix in AOR F1 so far, but we've seen plenty of intriguing action. But now Tyrrell Snitzel, the championship leader, he's not got all the road to himself. He's now going to try and get past his two closest championship rivals. So just looking further down the order, Lee Finley in P6. He's kind of keeping a watching brief. They've all been DRS of each other in the top 7. The other reserve driver, Danny MG, going along nicely in P7. Casper in P8. Dave Frosty P9. VSR Wayne in P10. Outside the top 10, all 3 of the F2 graduates. 11th and 12th for Bliss and Tactician. LR2, well, not near the points at the moment. Unlike Baku, I'm not expecting to see too many retirements here today, but the top 3, this is what it's all about here at the Circuit de Catalunya. Tyrrell Snitzel has now got in within DRS range of Tuesday. So who has the superior straight line speed? As they go across the line to start lap 11 here. A 3-second time penalty with Nicolas Matteo, so that's not going to be ideal for his bid to get into the points. And look at that, Michael taking a bit of a deep line, turn 1, slipping on the curbs a little bit. Tyrrell Snitzel, well, he's not going to go for anything here. It's just going to keep a watching brief of these two. He would love it if the two Williams came into contact, because that would give him an opportunity to get past the both of them. But Michael and Truesdale are more than experienced enough not to get into any sort of shenanigans like that, you would think. Season 15 champion, Season 16 champion and reigning Season 17 champion, all within the same shot as they fight for this victory here at Spain. Well, we're expecting pit stops soon, Andy. Any activity in the pit lane at the moment?
Yes, it has been. So Blizzard's just pitted on that lap. He's now just released everybody else finally from his little train. Speed Barry's came in as well, having been in the top 8 as well early doors. So he's now onto the hard compound tyres. And a bit of a strange one, 2 laps ago. Nardi Perez came in, having been on the hard tyres, and has put on a set of medium compound tyres at the end of lap 9. That one I find a little bit strange, but the pit stop phase has really now begun, because the medium compound tyres are expected to do between 11 to 16 laps. Now remember, for the top 10 especially, who are mainly on the medium tyres, those tyres have done 3 laps roughly in qualifying as well. So we're going to see a flurry of activity in pit lane very shortly, and then those guys in the hard tyres, we're going to be waiting until we get into the early 20s, I would say, before we start seeing them coming in.
Oh, Tyrrell Snitzel having half a look at Truesdale. That was a risky move. Sorry to cut you off there, but I didn't think he was in range for an attack, but he had half a look there, trying to put Truesdale off into maybe locking up the tyres, but that was not really on. But I think it was more of a filling his mirrors kind of action from Snitzel there. Truesdale maintaining second place, but yeah, going back to you, Andy. Yeah, so.
Yeah, the only bit I was just going to finish out was Speed Barry coming in as he did. Remember, he done this in China as well. He pitted a few laps before the leaders and ended up managing to somehow, with the tyres going off, hold the field off and take that podium at the end of the race. So if he can keep good speed here and not take too much life out of the tyres, he could still be a contender for some decent points at the end and repeat what he done in Shanghai. That was just what I was going to say to finish it off.
Yes, well, those hard runners outside the top 10 got a long way to go. Stay Frosty, the lead hard runner at the moment of those who started on them. He's in a very solid P9 at the moment, so when he goes on to the mediums later on, he may be on for some good things there. Both McLarens in, and here we go then, the race leader into the pits. Any other pit stops? No, Truesdale will stay out. And actually wasn't a particularly good exit from Tyrrell Snitzel. That may put him under threat from Asnar here. It's Michael trundles into the pit lanes, and it's a flurry of activity. Danny MG coming into the pits now. So let's see. So this is surely going to be the hard compounds for the Season 16 champion. Yes, it is. So let's see, will he come out? And yellow's in sector 3.
R2 spun at the last corner. He's on gravel. He's missed the wall. He's going to keep going though, but he's just lost it out at the final corner. And that's going to drop him down the field. I don't think he's damaged the car in any way, or has he? No, everything looks in good order. So just spun out the final corner there, unfortunately, for the Ferrari.
Well, yeah, unfortunate for the other Ferrari. Well, Michael's come out in some good space, about 3 seconds behind Williams Jim Roy. So he's going to have to get on the power a bit. It's going to. There's actually quite a gaggle of cars close to each other on the hard compound. So, you know, clearing those cars, that's going to be the key challenge next for Michael. But we're going to go back to the front because Truesdale now, I believe Truesdale and Snitzel may well come in at the same time. Let's see if Truesdale and Snitzel decide to both pit at the end of lap 13, or will one of them maybe attempt going a little longer on the overcut. But there doesn't seem to be any issues in terms of coming out. It's going to be a question of whether Michael was able to get those tyres up. So, oh, and there you go. Both making very last-minute decisions, not taking the proper entry line, but that's not going to be looked at by the stewards, I'm sure. So here we go then. Championship leader into the pit lane. Truesdale, it's going to be tight. It's going to be very tight here, and I think just the Williams pit crew get him out ahead. Schnitzel, where is Michael? Michael's just coming out now, and I think he's going to get past both of them. Oh, it's close though. I tell you what, they are just as you were, Andy, as you were.
Yeah, he's managed to keep ahead there, Michael, coming out of pit lane just in front of him, so the top three will still technically be those guys that were up the front once everything balances out. Speed Barry's in fourth position, not too far off the back of him. He's managed to stay ahead of the likes of Daniel Alves, Danny, Lee Finley, as well as teammates, so he's coming back towards that front lot as well after that pit stop phase. Expect Alvaro Anzar and Casper to be in the pits at the end of this lap before long, because they're on the medium compound tyres. That will put the McLaren of Stay Frosty into the lead of this race if they do come in this lap as expected, and he's got about nearly 3 seconds over the next car, and Nicholas Matteo, who's got Tactician not too far off the back of him. And those guys all on the hard compound tyres as well. There's Anzar into pit lane as expected, and Casper's carrying on for another lap, so the young Dutchman's decided he wants to lead a lap at least. He feels he's maybe got a wee bit more life in these tyres yet to just push it for one more lap. It'll be interesting to see if that pays off. Yeah, well, obviously Alfa Romeo happy with the condition of those mediums, so yeah, they can go a little bit longer. So that was a superb outlap by Truesdale, has to be said, because he came up just under a second, and he had to stay within that second because I would have left him vulnerable with Schnitzel, but he had a superb outlap, and if anything, he's got these tyres up temperature a little bit quicker than Michael, who's actually been on those an extra lap compared to Michael, or one less lap, I should say. So this is the battle for the net lead, and I tell you what, if we had a virtual safety car or a safety car right now, that would blow this race wide open. Now, the interesting thing that's coming up, Andy, is now they're about to catch Williams Jim Roy, but up ahead of them is a huge gaggle of cars very close to each other who are all on hard tyres. So what effect do you think they will have? If they have trouble trying to overtake them, we could see quite a few changes for the net lead as one struggles, makes a mistake, and then we get a change of position between these three, Michael, Truesdale and Schnitzel. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those guys that are ahead of the three at the moment, Roy, Alonso, Hugh Golf, Ollie D, Tactician, Nicholas Matteo and Frosty, the ones that are on the hard compound tyres, as Casper does come into pit lane at the end of the lap. Now, they're obviously not obligated to get out of the way, of course. It is a race for position. It's not a blue flag situation. They are in that position on merit at this point in time because they're going long on the strategy, so they don't need to get out of the way. So it is up to the likes of Michael, Truesdale and Schnitzel to get by them as quickly as possible, to not get held up for the rest of the race. That's what they need to avoid doing. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how quickly they can get by on fresher tyres, because you'd expect they should be able to do so, but it's not always the case, is it?
No, especially if there's and actually Jim Roy's definitely been given the hurry up by the Red Bull team, because he was out of DRS range of RC Alonso, but he's put in a couple of superb laps. He's now within DRS range of the two racing points, and that's actually going to make it trickier for the likes of Michael Truesdale and Schnitzel to get past, because as anyone who knows who races at a track like this, when there's a DRS train, it is incredibly difficult to overtake. So this could actually put the likes of Aznar, Speedbar and Dan Alves back into play. Aznar going a little extra on those tyres to put him about 2 seconds behind his teammate for the night, Schnitzel. But this is a very key part to reach half distance here at Spain, and a very key component of this particular race. Oh, look at that. A poor exit out of turn 10, went a bit deep, and Schnitzel is now right on the back of him. So can Schnitzel put Truesdale under pressure? Truesdale desperately trying to keep within DRS range of his teammate, because he knows without it, he has a little less straight line speed. I think he is running a bit more downforce. That's why he's able to follow so closely through these slower corners. He's got to keep in, and he has, no, he hasn't got DRS. So here comes Schnitzel then. Season 15 versus reigning champion. Schnitzel's going to try and go around the outside. and he swoops back into P9. That's a net second place at the moment. So Schnitzel has conquered one Mercedes, and Asnar's just been forced off the track. I just saw in the background, or was that Speed Barry?
No, it was Asnar. Speed Barry took a bit of a lunge. He had much better speed into turn 1, took a move into turn 1, and now he's been punted as well, turning in on
Daniel contact, Speed Barry.
And that's a race ruined there for the Toro Rosso driver. He just turned in on the McLaren as far as I'm concerned. Daniel Alves nowhere to go, and the McLaren's got damage as well. I won't be surprised if the stewards have a look at that one after the race. But yeah, Barry came from a bit back, pushed Asnar off the road. He took to the escape road. It compromised Barry on the exit. Daniel Alves getting a great run through up to turn 4, and it just looks to me, it just looked like Barry just turned in on the McLaren, expecting him to just back out of the move, but McLaren was already halfway up the inside, it looked like to me from my camera angle. And well, it'll be interesting to see what the stewards think. You could call it racing incident, but you could also put some of the blame there at the door of the Toro Rosso driver from my view.
Yes, well, Speed Barry's superb run so far this season may be about to come to an end. RC Alonso's actually pitted, only 16 laps on the hard, so that's interesting. Now, can Michael get ahead of the Red Bull? These two had many battles in season 16, and up ahead, the racing point of Hugh trying to get past Ollie D, who's this proverbial cork in the bottle at the moment of this mini train. And Schnitzel is now closing the gap to Michael. That is the fight for the net lead between those two, because don't forget, all 6 cars ahead of Michael, Schnitzel, Truesdale, etc. have not pitted yet. So Michael trying to get ahead of the Red Bull. Following in the dirty air, it's going to slow him down so much. Schnitzel will be biding his time, waiting for Michael to make a mistake. Don't want to follow a car too closely through turn 9, because you can really get a bit of stall on the aero. And that's why Michael definitely backed off a little bit there. Didn't want to follow too closely. So Roy maintains P6 for the time being. So Tactician having a solid race up ahead of these guys so far. In P3 currently. Nicholas Patel in P2. Has a 3-second time penalty, unfortunately. Stay Frosty. Well, he's been the lead hard runner from the start, outside the top 10 for the whole race. So he could be in position for some big points at the end of the race when he switches to the mediums, which will be much faster. And look at that. 2 cars peel off into the pits. Michael will get DRS off them, so that will not allow Schnitzel to have any sort of attack. Or will he? His straight line speed seems considerable. He's trying to break the toe there, Michael. Will Schnitzel go for a move down the inside? No, he will not for now. Now they're going to be closing the gap to Ollie D. I have to say, though, Andy, it's quite early for these stops on the hards, aren't they? Because they've got quite a long way to go on a set of mediums. They're going to have to stretch those in the final stint.
They're going to be slightly second hand by the end for sure. I mean, as I said earlier, about 11 to 16 laps. This is going to make them do roughly about 14 laps or so. So they are going to be getting towards the end of their life cycle. But maybe the drivers just obviously feeling with the mediums, they may be able to extend the tyre life a bit more with the lighter fuel loads that we will have towards the end of this race. And maybe the higher fuel loads have just worn the tyres out a wee bit more. Remember, there is a lot of corners here to put a lot of load through the tyres, a lot of wear through it. Turn 3, especially turn 9's a fast corner as well, and there's plenty of heavy braking zones too, so it's a real car tester, and that's why they do so much testing here at the Circuit de Catalunya in the off season, because it does test just about every aspect of the car, with long straights, tight corners, and punishing long fast corners as well. So really interesting track. Speaking of interesting though, Schnitzel's got a mighty run on Michael coming out.
Here comes Schnitzel
down the front straight. This is now for the lead.
They've both got DRS though. Michael had it. Michael's got to cover the inside, but actually he's put it back down to mode 0. So I think he's going to try and bide his time for the time being, trying to force Michael to use up more of his battery. But actually Michael's not falling for it. He's managing his battery better than Schnitzel. The 90% battery he's got in reserve. So that's good job all. And actually Schnitzel runs wide out of turn 3, and that's allowed Truesdale to get a bit of interest in maybe getting back ahead of him. What would be a net P3 at the moment. Stay Frosty. It's done 19 laps on those mediums, and I think he's going to be in a superb position later on, because you know that's a decent 10-second gap at this stage of the race, given that these guys have been on fresh hards for a while. That's a really excellent job from Stay Frosty and the McLaren. And well, we will see. Well, something's happened to Daniel Alves, because he was in the fight early on, at least in the top 5.
Yeah, he was the one caught out with Speed Barry.
Ah, okay.
Well, again for a wing change.
I didn't realise he had damage as well, so that's unfortunate, Daniel Alves. So they've both ruined their races with that particular incident at turn 4 a few laps ago. So now Michael will have no DRS.
Blizzard's in the wall.
Oh, who's in the wall? Blizzard.
Blizzard is in the wall. I'm not sure exactly where it is. I've just seen the yellow flag, but, well, that's another shocking race, unfortunately, for a Renault driver. He's
not good for the reigning F2 champion, but we're going to focus our attention on the battle for the lead. Schnitzel has been hunting these Williams down. He's conquered one of them. Can he get past the other one? And with that straight line speed, it's like a real Mercedes versus a real Williams. It is simple as you like. Taking candy from a baby right there. Schnitzel takes the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix because now Frosty has pitted from his mighty stint on those hard tyres. So Schnitzel, the reigning champion, ahead of the two Williams. This looks familiar, very akin to the Bahrain Grand Prix, but you get the sense it is not over just yet. Can Michael respond? Because we saw he had good straight line speed early on in the race when he overtook his teammate Truesdale, but the top three clearly in the fight for this race victory. The likes of Asnar, Danny MG, they have faded away. So it looks like these three are going to be in the fight for the lead. And look at that, Stay Frosty has come out in P7. And how far is he off the lead? He's only 8.7 seconds. So I tell you what, fourth place at the very least looks very much on for Stay Frosty. And if one of the top three has some sort of issue with tyre life later on, which I don't expect they will, or some kind of contact, he could be on for a podium here. So Stay Frosty, he crashed out at Azerbaijan last week, but before that he'd had 5th, 8th and 6th, but I think 4th is a very realistic possibility if he can get some clean overtakes done. And well, what I have noticed though, this particular lap, Schnitzel and Michael seemingly have had a bit more pace than Truesdale. Truesdale's been left almost out of DRS range. Can Michael go for a move down the inside? He has kept up with Schnitzel. This battle could rage until the very last lap here. But yeah, Truesdale, I think he's kind of saving battery at the moment. I think that's why he's dropped back just a little bit. But he can't afford to drop out of DRS range, because if he does, he may be left behind by the top two.
Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't want to lose too much ground. He wants to keep within DRS range, at least if he is trying to save the tyres up, save the battery up. His teammate's doing a great job. He's saving the battery life at the moment. As he went into turn one, he had about 70. He's got 80% at the moment. The Mercedes ahead's at 57, 60. So the Williams has got plenty in reserve. Truesdale's had to use a little bit, by the looks of it, just to keep tabs on the front two. He's down to under 40 nearly at the moment. He's just keeping within the DRS range at the moment. But I do totally agree with you when it comes to the McLaren of Frosty. Now on those medium compound tyres, he's already within DRS range of Casper ahead, who's got Danny MG just ahead of him as well. P4's a very realistic possibility. We got about 11 laps to go when they cross the line this time, by 10 to go. So that is definitely a very good possibility for Frosty, and it'd be a very good result for him as well with that strategy. He's gained 9 places as well. He started 16th and he's on for a possible P4. That is driver of the day worthy if he can fill that one out.
Yeah, no, I'd absolutely agree with that. So Jim Michael just steadily in DRS range of Schnitzel. I think he's going to try and build up his battery for a big assault, try and force Schnitzel into a mistake. It's not been a perfect race for Schnitzel so far. It had some problems with Raznos early on the race. Kasper just overtaking Danny MG for P5. And I think Stay Frosty will be trying to follow through. I think we may have a quick look at them actually. Just want to keep an eye on that particular battle, because we may see some good action between those particular three. The battle for 5th place. FRS now kind of in no man's land at the moment. Now Spear Rubber for Stay Frosty. Can he go for a move down the inside Danny MG? No, not at the moment. It's not going to go for a move. You don't often see overtakes at turn 5 unless someone's made a real meal of turn 3 and turn 4. Although we did see Daniel Kvyat do a spectacular overtake from turn 4 to 5 at the real Spanish Grand Prix on Kimi Raikkonen, so we get a terrible rear view camera. So we'll go back to the onboard T-cam. Stay Frosty looks like he's got so much more confidence, so much more grip on those fresh tyres. He's compared 10 lap old hards ahead of Danny MG versus 2 lap old mediums. I think this could be a no contest. Oh, look at that, going very deep out of the corner, maintaining the apex to lock off Stay Frosty. Now heading for the final part of the lap through the chicane, which not a very popular addition to the track. I still love the old sweeping corner that used to be here. And I think here we go. Yeah, I don't think Danny MG is even going to bother fighting that. Yeah, he's pretty much waved it by there. I think he knows he's on for a solid point score. There's no point risking that fighting someone who's got much fresher tyres. We will go back to the battle for lead shortly. But we just want to give these guys a little bit of screen time, because with Stay Frosty in particular, barely saw any of him when he was on his long hard stint, so he deserves a bit of glory here as he overtakes for P6. And Blizzard has left the session. The only retirement so far, 19 cars running on lap 24. This race has absolutely flown by so far. But let's have a quick look at Michael. Michael's within half a second of Truesdale. I don't think this battle is over. It could come down to an individual mistake, and Schnitzel running very wide at that corner there out of turn 9. Alvaro now in the background, 4.3 seconds behind, playing the boss-ass role for Mercedes today. Quick, but not quite quick enough to battle for the lead. And Truesdale, well, he's just again building up his battery, but he's nearly out of DRS range. He's got to stay within DRS range if he can. He cannot afford to fall out of DRS range at the moment. And I think if we don't see a move happen for the lead here, I think we'll switch immediately to Stay Frosty, because I think he is about to launch an attack on Casper, who got that superb second place at Baku last week. And look at how close Michael is. I tell you what, this is an opportunity for sure. Schnitzel's not going to defend it. This is going to be a ding-dong battle for the rest of the race. Terrible camera view. I'm very sorry about that. But into the lead goes, and still a terrible camera view. Please get me off this off-the-shoulder view, please. But Michael takes the lead back of the Spanish Grand Prix. Schnitzel demoted to second. And Stay Frosty, rather predictably, the overtake on Casper happens at the same time. But we have to focus on the battle of the lead, of course, because we are entering the critical stage of this particular race. Car number 28, Schnitzel, back down to P2. That was an easy overtake, Andy, but this is not the end of the battle, is it?
No, definitely not, and it's definitely not the end of the battle by a long shot. This is going to go all the way to the flag. These three are out and away, you know, away from everyone else. I don't even know what I was trying to say there. Sorry, I'm tripping over my own tongue, but it's going to go to the flag basically. Frosty, as you say, he did get by round the outside into turn 1. Casper took the inside line, defended it, but it was too easy on the fresh tyres for Frosty to go round the outside and up to 5th. So I'm going to keep an eye on the gap. He's got 2.2 seconds to Alvaro Anzar. P4 still on at the moment easily, because I can see the Mercedes from the onboard camera with the McLaren just now, and he is closing up very, very quickly. Meanwhile, Tactician is just sneaked by on Wayne going up the hill through what is turn number 12. That was not usually an overtaking zone. Much better run out of turn 10 up through the curves, and into the points now for Tactician. We hope to stay there for the rest of the race. Meanwhile, the two racing points, Alonso and Hugh Golf, got Roy and Ollie D right behind as well, so a bit of a 4-car train. They've been having a wee bit of ding dong as well. Plenty of battles going on through the field, but it's all about up front. You can't just look away from the front three just now, because they are so close together. I mean, we're covered by less than a second, and we're at lap 26 to 33 as Wayne and Tactician are fighting their way through turn 3 one more time, and the Ferraris finally got that position back. So lost it at turn 12, gained it back through 3 and 4. Nicely done. Yeah,
I'm glad I caught that move. That was a superb move of VSR Wayne to retake P10, but we'll go straight back to the front. The top 3 separated by less than a second. Alvaro Asnart slowly being caught by Stay Frosty. The gap is 2 seconds between P4 and P5, but these realistically, unless something happens to one of these 3 cars, I should say, are going to be filling the podium, and not for the first time this season. These 3 drivers, the last 3 champions in this particular league, have really dominated the championship so far, and they will continue to do so, I'm sure, for the rest of the campaign. Now, has Truesdale managed to save any of his tyres? Has he got anything left for the end of the race? And here comes Schnitzel once again. Is Michael going to cover the inside? He's not doing it just yet. And look, well, Schnitzel, he was in the kill zone to get it, but maybe he wants to wait until the very last lap to do it, so he doesn't fall victim to the tow. Michael going slightly deep before turn 3, but recovers it and straightens the car out. And look at that. Truesdale is right there, just behind him. 1.6 seconds now between P4 and P5, but this is, I think, it's going to be our main attention. Tactician and Wayne continue their ding-dong battle for P10, so I wish we could see more of that, but we caught a little glimpse of it, so they'll at least get that when they watch it back. But look at this, Truesdale. You know, he had a few laps where he was just biding his time, building up the battery again. Now he's right back in this fight. 2 Williams versus 1 Mercedes, as it has been for so often these races this season. But at the moment, it looks like Williams are yet again with their all-star lineup. The season 15 and 16 champions are going to extend their advantage in the Constructors' Championship. But I'll tell you what, Andy, Mercedes and Williams, I mean, they are charging away from the rest in the Team Championship, aren't they?
Absolutely. I mean, even coming into tonight, you've got Mercedes on 97 and second. The next nearest team is Toro Rosso on 43. Forget about that for the moment, though, because Schnitzel, I was getting the front wing camera there. I got a very good look at the gearbox, and here we go down the front straight. Michael squeezes him a little bit.
Watch out for Truesdale, though. Truesdale's going to try and get past his teammate as well, and Schnitzel retakes the lead. I thought Truesdale's going to try and take the pair of them, Andy. Well, here we go. So Another twist and turn, and look at that. Stay Frosty, as I think Bara has had a horrible lap somewhere because he's been caught by Stay Frosty. Suddenly he lost over a second. He must have made a huge mistake, probably in sector 3, I would suspect. But Schnitzel back in front of the two Williams as we enter lap 28. So let's have a quick look at Stay Frosty, because I don't think we're going to see any overtakes in this particular sector. Stay Frosty right on the back.
Alves at the final corner. The yellow flags, Daniel Alves lost it at the final corner. Just to make you aware of what that is, that's dropped him down to 18th.
Look at that. Oh, well, I tell you what, Schnitzel is pushing. He's on maximum attack. He's trying to get out of the DRS. He's trying to end this race right here, right now. And look at that. He's got a second on Michael. Michael's got to respond. Not sure what's happening with Michael at the moment. He seems really slow. Has he got some kind of problem? He's dropped 1.2 seconds in a single lap since being overtaken, and if anything, he's holding up Tuesday. He's helping Schnitzel here. I don't know what's happened with Michael. Did he make some sort of contact? I don't think he did make contact with Schnitzel, but I don't know what's happened here. But Schnitzel is running away with this now.
Yeah, definitely. You got 19.6 from the championship leader, 1.4 seconds just in the space of that one lap there. There goes Truesdale. Easy slam dunk to the inside, back to the racing line into turn 1. Puts him up in a place. Frosty's just done pretty much the same thing behind an Alvaro Anza. Now, to keep an eye on that McLaren, because he's only 6 seconds behind, 5 seconds or so behind. If Michael has got a problem, that McLaren might still be on for a podium. You never know. I mean, it's a bit more of a long shot now, but if there is a problem for Michael, that is still a possibility. He's lost a lot of time. That's 2 seconds now. Michael has dropped to Schnitzel in the space of about a lap and a half, and that's not usually what we expect from someone of his calibre.
Oh, 3-second penalty for Tuesday.
That's going to make a difference at the end of the race, because even if he can now catch and pass Schnitzel, he's got 3 seconds it's going to cost him. So that's putting the Mercedes driver in the absolute box seat right now.
Yeah, well, that will really help Schnitzel, because even if Michael can get back on the pace, he's going to have to try and get past Tuesday. But yeah, Schnitzel, lap 28, seemingly a decisive lap here, because all of a sudden Schnitzel overtook at turn 1. Then by the end of lap 28, Michael had just gone off the pace completely. I don't know what's happened to Michael. Dramatic scenes. I don't know if he's got some sort of issue with his wheel or brakes or something like that. It seems bizarre he would lose this much pace all of a sudden. We know how quick Michael can be. It's 1.8 now between the top two, and Schnitzel is well on course then for a 4th win from the first 5 races. And Casper is trying to dive down the inside of Alvaro Aznar, who's gone off the boil somewhat. He's dropped 1.2 seconds.
I was just watching that one there. Thought they were going to make contact into turn 1. Managed to avoid that. Nicholas Mateo's just got his way past Lee Finlay, who seems to be fading a little bit in this late stages, but he's still on for a couple of points at the moment. Haas does have the medium compound tyres that are only 10 laps compared to 16 for the Toro Rosso. Roy's still having a battle with the racing points down the field. He's just gone round the outside there on Hugh into turn 4, doing what Kvyat did to Raikkonen this year. Very nice move there from him. And Alonso's trying to catch onto the back of Wayne to see if he can try and maybe catch up to the likes of Tactician and Lee Finlay. The points are still on there. That's still a good chance for points there. 9th down to 14th are within about 2 seconds each other, so that could close up very quickly in the final couple of laps.
Yeah, well, Tuesday, I think he does have the gap in terms of Save Frosty. If Stay Frosty can get within like 2 seconds of Michael, though, he may have a say on getting onto the podium, which would be his best result of the season by far so far. Well, P4 would be his best result of the season. He had P5 at Australia, so he's had a superb race, Stay Frosty. He's certainly a contender driver today, considering where he started. Casper has finally got ahead. Any other battles going on here? Bara Aznar's been overtaken by Casper from P5. Anything going on for Jim Roy? No, he's not quite close enough yet. It's now nearly 2 seconds. Where's Schnitzel got this pace from? He's suddenly found a second wind on these older hard tyres, and there's now 3 laps to go, including this one. So Diro Schnitzel now to 2 second advantage, and surely he's not going to give that up within the closing laps.
No, you'd think not. We've seen it many a time in real life. It's hammer time, as they say in that Mercedes, and he's just taken off 2 seconds now over Truesdale. You just got to wonder there, just after the pit stop phases, he just decided to just hold back a little bit of tyre life and then just turn the wick up. Maybe he was saving fuel. I know I've seen a comment in the chat saying that when they were having the battle, what a big moment for Truesdale at the top of the hill there. He saved that. That was rallycross style at the top of the hill. It's going to allow his teammate a chance, but I did see a comment in the chat saying that it looked like they were both lifting slightly down the straight, just taking a little bit a breather on the throttle down the front straight to save fuel. Was that maybe what Schnitzel was doing, just sitting behind the Williams, saving the fuel up so that he could then really push it into the late stages as Michael regained second position over his teammate Truesdale after the German had that big moment at the top of the hill at turn 12, but he's managed to collect it all up and stay going. Yellow flag somewhere in sector 2. I'll try and figure out what that might be, but it's disappeared, so it won't matter. Oh no, it's back again. I'll see if I can find it. There's a terrible race for him. Just after that incident with Barry earlier on, it's just gone all to pot. It's gone Pete Tong for the McLaren driver, and I wouldn't be surprised if he comes to pit lane and retires that car now with only a couple of laps to go. But Schnitzel put the hammer down, and he's going to make it 4 out of 5 unless something drastic happens in these last lap and a half.
Yeah, it was such a close battle between the top three, but suddenly Schnitzel found an extra level which Michael and Truesdale just couldn't live with, and they're fighting over P2, although realistically Truesdale will not get better than P3 because he's freezing tempered. And I tell you what, all that battling has allowed Stave Frosty to close ever closer to these two Williams. So Stave Frosty is still within a shout of the podium. He is just, and I mean just outside, and Daniel Alves has called it a day. And now here we go then. So Tyrrell Schnitzel begins the final lap of this race. It is flown by this Spanish Grand Prix in AOR F1. Can Truesdale get back ahead? It's got the toe. Oh, can he get ahead of Michael? Yes, he can. Back into P2 he goes. And that's all it's a fight for now. Stacey is out of range of getting on the podium, so I think it's still going to be a Williams 2-3. Another double podium this season. They've had a fair few already this season. See if there's any other action going on down the field. Let's have a look at Lee Finley. Lee Finley, oh, side by side. I think that's Nicholas Materi's side by side with. He's just got another 3-second time penalty.
He's pushed off, and he's backwards. Nicholas Mateo backwards. He just got pushed.
Oh,
wide.
Jim Roy has been caught up. Oh dear, more contact. There's been a few fisticuffs in the midfield. We're going to go back to Tyrrell Schnitzel, flying through turn 9, a 3.6 advantage now. I mean, we'll have to ask him. He was building up his battery, but he has unleashed something absolutely incredible here today. And Stave Frosty's now within 2 seconds of Michael. It's something they are fading badly, the Williams here.
He might do this. He might do this, you know.
Entering the final few corners here. Tyrrell Schnitzel, he won in Australia. He won in Bahrain. He won in Baku, and he's going to win here in Barcelona. Take the checkered flag, a 4th win from 5 with a Spanish Grand Prix victory. Truesdale across the line in second. Michael will take second, and will Stave Frosty get on the podium? Oh, just misses out by nearly 0.3 of a second. That was close. But we're going to go on board, and here we go. Casper in 5th, Avaraz 9th, 6th, Danny MG in 7th, Leaf in 8th, Tactician in 9th, RC Alonso takes the final point through penalties, Ollie D in 11th. But once again, the story is about this man, Tyrrell Schnitzel, a 4th win from 5 races. This is unprecedented dominance, at least in my time of covering this particular league. And a perfect send-off before we head to Monaco next week. Absolutely outstanding stuff from Tyrrell Schnitzel, especially in those last few laps where suddenly he found a level which no one else could live with.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff there. And we were going to ask him, obviously, where did that pace come from in the final stint? And I just recognised as well, we still haven't given a bonus point for the fastest lap because Speed Barry, who's finished 17th, nicked it on the final lap. So we're still not giving out a bonus point yet. I think we could go all 21 races doing this, to be honest. But
yeah,
fantastic stuff.
I think you may be right, unless we get like a race where it's dry right at the end. That could be the time where we get it. But here we go, the podium. Slightly glum faces from the two Williams teammates. They'll be scratching their heads because they were right there with Schnitzel the entire race, and suddenly he left them for dust. It was the quick and the dead out here in Spain. Adios amigos, that is what Schnitzel said to his competition here at Circuit de Catalunya as he celebrates yet another victory this season in season 18. But there is still a long way to go this season, and the prizes are not handed out until it's over. So here is your provisional result for the Spanish Grand Prix of AOR F1. Tyrrell Schnitzel by 4.8 seconds to Tim Michael, who recovered from his difficult race at Baku for another podium. Truesdale, another double podium for Williams. Stave Frosty P16 to P4, arguably the driver of the day. Let us know in the chat what your thoughts on that are. Casper in P5, Alvaro Aznar in P6, Danny MG in P7, Lee Finley points with his return, Tactician with more points, second point scored this season, RC Alonso with the final championship point for Racing Point, and Ollie Dean 11th, Wayne 12th, Nardi Perez in 13th, Golf in 14th, William Stimroy in 15th, Nicholas Mateo to Speed Barry, R2, and Daniel Alves and Blizzard were the only 2 retirements for this particular race.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be some interesting bits during the week, keeping an eye on the stewards, because I don't think Nicholas Mateo's too chuffed at Lee Finley with that latest lap incident. Let's just put it that way, to what I've seen already. And disaster again for Ferrari. Wayne crossed the line in 10th for that final point, but because he had 2 3-second time penalties, he lost out, and that took it and gave it to Hugo in the Racing Points. So Ferrari still not gaining any more points yet, and still rooted to the bottom of the standings.
Yep. Well, we're now going to focus our attention on getting some interviews after a highly entertaining race. We didn't have much of a fight for the lead last week in Baku, and we had a huge fight for most of this particular race, but then in the end, Tyrrell Schnitzel just, found some extra speed that he must have been keeping in his locker for the entire race. So hopefully we can get all top 3 drivers, because Schnitzel in particular, it'll be very fascinating to see what he actually did. Because after he overtook for the lead, he put it on full blast, and then when he was out of DRS range, and that was the decisive moment of this particular race. So in terms of those of you in the chat, thank you very much for watching this evening. Let us know who your nomination for the driver of the day is. I would say my gut instinct would be to go for Stay Frosty, P16 to P4, a really solid drive with the alternate strategy. So we're just going to wait.
Can't say I disagree with that one, to be honest. Coming from all the way down the field and making that strategy work. It just makes you wonder, though, when you see drivers do that. What could they have done if they had had a good qualifying with that sort of pace? It just makes you wonder, where could they actually have finished? But he's done a fantastic job, stayed out of trouble, made the strategy work, and some solid points for him, and also, of course, for McLaren. And for me, yeah, he's my driver of the day.
Right, well, we will hopefully hear from the top 3 in this particular race, but we may hear from some other folks. I'm just going to create an invite. Just going to switch to
I
the
think
ready.
They're still celebrating with the team.
Yep, still celebrating with the team. Last thing he wants is a microphone shoved in his face, but going to switch to the ready for interview room so I can send an invite out. Yeah, that was a superb race. It's a pity we had such a, well, not a pity to a degree, but we had such a good battle for the lead. We missed a lot of action in the midfield today, which I guess was the opposite of last week, where we had some absolutely crazy midfield action.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's still plenty of going on in the midfield, down the order, but the front 3 were just so close to each other the entirety of the race. They pretty much were in a second for most of the race until that last section, where the Mercedes just sort of disappeared off into the distance just when it was needed as well. We're going to get firing on with the interviews because our race winner has joined us here already. Dominic Hoffman, aka TRL Schnitzel, is here. 4th win out of 5 races for you. Fantastic stuff. I'm going to get to the point that was the defining moment in the race shortly, but talk us through what you were doing in the race, especially in that first stint where, trying to get through. You had a bit of a battle with your teammate tonight, Alvaro Anzar, and got a wee bit of the elbows out for a moment.
Yeah, well, first of all, in my opinion, I made it a lot harder than I had to, with just a really poor performance in qualifying, bottling my first lap and then bottling the second lap as well. Well, the thing is about this game in particular, and with one very long DRS straight, which is essentially the only overtaking point on the track, and there being a train, it's just you can't really overtake when the car in front of you has DRS. So I was lucky to get 2 people on the start already and get myself in a good position for the rest of the first stint. And then, well, with Alvaro, I don't expect him to get out of the way, of course, but I would have to watch it back. I mean, I guess I was a bit over aggressive as well on both occasions where contact was made, I think, in turn 1 and entering sector 3. And well, the rest of the race then was pretty much just trying to not bottle the strategy again as I did in China and putting myself in an even worse position than I already was in. And then those final few laps, or those last laps before I ultimately made the deciding pass, I just tried to second guess what Michael was going to try to do, because on this game is pretty much playing tactics a lot with the DRS and the slipstream, and that's what I tried to second guess with him. I was always wary of the car behind me, because that's where I was kind of at a disadvantage, where I always had to look out for Alex behind me, who was working together with Michael, I would assume. And then on one occasion, when I ultimately made the pass, I tried to give Alex or Truesdale slipstream even, so that he could get past Michael as well. But for some reason, he didn't want to. Yeah, well, that was enough for me. Well, both cars went side by side into turn 1, and I knew that on that particular lap I had to break out of the 1 second window, which then ultimately made my life a lot easier. And from there on in, I knew that I pretty much had to bring it home without any mistakes. And overall, it was a lot harder than it had to be, I think, but nevertheless, I think pretty good race to watch.
Definitely. So we had plenty to keep our eyes on tonight, but I've got to ask as well though, after you made that pass, where did that pace come from? Was that at your end? Did you just have some pace in mind? Did you keep some fuel back or anything? Because once you got past, you shot off by about 1.5 seconds within a lap, and you cleared the way to about 4.5 seconds by the end of the race. Where did that come from?
Yeah. One thing as well, I was saving up a little bit behind Michael in terms of ERS and fuel. And on that particular lap, I just bolted everything I had in the tank pretty much. And yeah, for some reason, the following laps as well, I was only within a few tenths of my quickest lap. So those final few laps, I just found my rhythm again, which I should have had in the first place, but for some reason I only found with a few laps to go when it actually counted still. But yeah.
Fantastic stuff, just keeping it all in reserve from when need be. And of course, next week we head to Monaco, the streets of the Principality. Always a tricky race, no matter what. How do you fancy your chances of making it 5 from 6?
Well, let's wait and see. I think I have pretty good memories from season 16 still, but yeah, it's a totally new game, it's a totally new field, and well, I can't really afford to bottle quali as I did today there, so would have to work on that. But yeah, Monaco is for sure going to be an exciting race, and not trying to make any predictions now because I really have no clue what's going to happen there.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, just throws a bit of a spanner in the works for you guys. But well done on another victory here tonight, and fantastic racing. Dominic, thanks very much for joining us once again.
Thank you.
We move on to second place. We move on to Williams' Jim. Michael, nearly said Roy there. Sorry, Michael. I don't know why. Michael, back on the podium after what was a tricky weekend last week in Baku. You know, despite everything, you must be happy to be back on the podium, picking up some solid points after last week.
Yeah, of course. I mean, congrats to Dominic again. Baku, you know, I was very frustrated during the race. I think I'll go over it very quickly because I know there's always going to be those races, you know, where nothing really goes my way. But, you know, I try to get over that and came here with, you know, still the same mindset and everything. But the race was actually really exciting. I thought it was always a top 3 very close together, within the DRS, of course. But yeah, qualifying was actually really good, and the pace was also really good from both all the top 3, of course, side. But yeah, I just had a small issue in the end with the throttle, and it was, I think, for the last 6 or 7 laps where I was still leading. It was going to about 95-96%, I guess, from what I could tell on the game. So yeah, that's, you know, again, can't say that what's cost me the win, but I was up there, and you know, I didn't have anything to really fight. You could see how slow I was on the straights, and at the time I didn't know why it was. I thought Dominic was running some incredibly low wings or something, but yeah, then I found out and I tried to fix it and tried to unplug it on the main straight, 3 times or something, but it never worked. So, you know, it's just annoying, you know. He was doing a very good race, I think, and yeah, that happens. It's frustrating, but again, you know, we kind of let that get over us and, you know, focus on the next races because the pace was good, I think.
So just to clarify, then, you were having pedal issues at your end during the race, you felt, which was leaving it about 90-95% throttle, and you were actually, while battling with the likes of Schnitzel and your teammate Truesdale behind, unplugging it at certain points just to try and get the reconnection back in then?
I mean, yeah, it was in the main straight, so I wasn't really losing time. I tried to unplug it once. They both almost go past me, as Dominic said. For some reason, Alex didn't, at the point where Dominic will pass. But, you know, I tried to unplug it on the main straight, so that didn't really cost me time. But it was the fact that I was trying to stay with those guys with the problem was, you know, near impossible. You need everything to be perfect to be fighting Alex of Dominic and Alex, of course. So, you know, it was game over really from the point I got past, and I lost the RS. So, you know, I just tried to unplug it and fix it because I saw Alex was getting past as well. It was obviously a lot faster with the issue, so I tried to fix it, but I think Alex also had a penalty. So yeah, it was just frustrating because you don't know what could happen without it. And as I said, the pace was good, and I was really enjoying the race up until that point. But yeah, we just have to wait and see because the same thing's happening in Baku. It was looking good here, and yeah, as I said, we just have to focus on the next races because otherwise maybe the same issues will happen.
Well, here's hoping that you can get it sorted before next week in Monaco. It's certainly clear to hear the frustration in your voice over it as well. But P2 is another good result here, and congratulations on that. And hopefully next time you can have no issues and we can.
Yep, thank you.
We move on to the final driver, third place, Truesdale. Alex, interesting race as well. You were pretty much there the whole way through too. Talk us through some of the key points in your race from your point of view.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations to Dominic and Michael. Both were really, really quick. And yeah, to be honest, Michael and I, we started training very late today. So yeah, we didn't really have too much time to prepare. And especially in the race, it was very tricky to manage. For example, I had a little problem with my brake pressure. It was not really ideal. I think Dominic saw it. When I was braking at the beginning of the third sector, I lost the rear completely because I broke a bit too much. So my balance in the race was not ideal, and that was also one of the reasons I tried to avoid fights because I knew if I get past, I would be a little bit inconsistent, and it's not ideal when you lose time against people who start in P11. I saw a few guys were really quick and catching us, and that was also one of the reasons I pushed quite a lot in the last lap because of my 3-second penalty. I had to stay ahead, which was very difficult, but yeah, quite an interesting race, decent qualifying, and yeah.
So was that issue then with the braking, was that on your setup actually in the game? Do you just put the brake pressure in the wrong direction a wee bit too much then?
Yeah, exactly. It was not ideal. In quali it was okay, but in the race, sometimes when I broke, I lost the rear quite a lot, and I was very inconsistent, especially at the beginning of the third sector in this hairpin corner.
Yeah, I did catch you on my screen at one point coming up over the top of the hill sideways once and caught it well. So well done on that save because that was a very, very good one. But you know, back on the podium, at least, and it extends the lead in the Constructors Championship for Williams, for you being in third and also with Michael being in second. And congratulations on P3 and the best of luck to all of you for next week in Monaco. Thank you all for joining us once again. Really appreciate it.
thanks.
Thank you very much, Andy. And yes, I echo those sentiments. Excellent performance from the top three, class of the field today. Although definitely a mention to Stay Frosty as well for his P16 to P4 today. Well, that is it for our Spanish Grand Prix coverage tonight for round 5 of season. Next week, well, it's a big one. It is the glitz, the glamour of Monaco. See you next time on Apex Online Racing.